Thank you for tuning into episode 3 of Culture, Power, and the Pen. I'm your host, Andy, and I'll be speaking with Abduweli Ayup, a Uyghur linguist, poet, and human rights advocate, whose fight to preserve the Uyghur language has made him both a cultural hero and a target of state repression. From opening Uyghur language schools in China to writing poetry in exile, Abduweli reflects on the cost and power of expression. Today, we'll talk about what it means to write from the margins, to find power and resilience through literature, and dive into stories that celebrate the identity, culture, and experiences of Asian minority communities. Let's begin. What first drew you to language, poetry, and storytelling? Was there a moment in your youth when you felt called to write?
When I was very young, we had a very famous scholar in 11th century,
Yeah.
the linguist and and researcher, and he wrote first Uyghur encyclopedia in the history. And we in our town we have a tradition that every spring, um, March 21st, we always visit his tomb and the whole gathering there. The contents of the gathering are about poem reciting and the singing and the wrestling and climbing mountain and horse race and something like that. And the important event among them is poetry reciting, and those kids recite or read their poetry first, and then there was a spring. We call it Noru spring. We just throw our poetry to the spring. It means that your knowledge, your creation will flow forever. Will like a stream will flow forever. There are a lot of streams from that spring. So it was a big spring, and there's a lot of streams from that spring. And when we recite or read our poem, we should throw our poem to the water, to the stream. It will flow down, and it means that your knowledge, your creation, and your poems will flow forever like a water. It will water the plants, flowers. So it was the culture I grew up. So because of that, I wrote my first poem. Because of that public gathering, because of that event. And then at the time, a lot of people listened to me and clapped for me, applauded me, and I felt pride and I felt encouragement. So that was the reason I started writing. Yeah, but I don't really remember what I wrote at the time. I was about 8 or 9 or something. But I know people clapped me and people applauded me. And my father said, "You did a great job." And my mother also hugged me and cried. And then I tried. I think I tried that about 4 years. Once I remember that I wrote about the storyteller, and the storyteller, he had a lot of jokes. I use those jokes as a raw material. I retell the story, and it was really funny. And I called it Osman Nazuk. It means crying baby. Like someone is always crying
Yeah.
for your help or empathy or something. And then people laugh and they were really happy. So After that, wherever I go, people call me Osman Nazuk, Osman crying, something like that. It's
Mm.
yeah. The guy is like famous storyteller and also like joke teller. And like I wrote about him, and it got that much attention, and people called me Little Osman Nazuk and something like that. It was fun.
So, how did growing up in Kashgar influence your relationship with the Uyghur language and the power it holds?
There's another reason I wrote poems. My dad had a sad story about not knowing a lot of poems. Like we have a culture, we call it meshrep. Meshrep is a public entertainment, like public gathering. People come, women and men, they come together, especially in winter, once a week, and they gather somebody's house, and then people dance and telling jokes, and they play musical instrument. Among them, storytelling is really important, and like poetic conversation is really important. For example, when you just came in, and the first thing in Uyghur culture, the host give you a cup of tea, but the host when the host give you a cup of tea, the host say it in poetic way. In the poem, it includes that I love you, look, I like you, and it's honor you come here. We are really happy, and we welcome you, and you give us amusement and surprising, and it's good, something like that. Something like means welcome someone, but in poetic way. And when you accept the tea, you have to tell in poetic way as well. You have to respond in poetic way. You can't just say thank you. You express that thankfulness in poetic way. If you can't drink the tea, or you can't put that tea on the table. The tea is really hot, and because of my dad, he didn't know a lot of poem, and he couldn't respond in poetic way. He held that cup for a long time. He couldn't sit, and then his fingers burned. And when I was young, I have seen that scar on his fingers. And I asked him, Dad, what happened? Why your fingers are burned? He said, because of I couldn't respond in poetic way. And when the host welcomed me with poetic way, I couldn't respond in poetry, so I had that scar. And that was the time I felt that, oh, poems and poetries are really important. If you could not recite or read or respond in poetic way, you can't join the entertainment. You can't entertain with your fellow Uyghurs. And the third reason is my grandpa was a fighter. He was a freedom fighter. He was lead his own army, joined the Uyghur freedom movement in 1930s. Also, he was a poet. He wrote a lot. But during the Cultural Revolution in China, there is a Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976, 10 years. During the Cultural Revolution, those Red Guards destroyed and burned Uyghur books, especially Uyghur poetry collections. And my grandpa's poems burnt during that Cultural Revolution. And my dad said it's important to recite, because if you recite the poem, no one can burn it, no one can destroy it. So, like poems in book style, it's not reliable. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. You don't know what kind of policy will implement to us as a Uyghur. So it's important to recite, not to lose it someday. Because it was really sad that like my grandpa lost all of his creations, all of his poems during the Cultural Revolution. So like my dad told me it's important. That's why I recited a lot. When I was young, I recited 36,000 poems. Like now, I can't remember most of it, but if I hear somewhere, I will remember it. If someone mentioned the poem, I will follow up. And some poems I remember really clearly. I can still remember a lot. So it helped me a lot. And those are the reasons that I became the lover of the poems. And yes, like in Kashgar, we have that meshrep culture. I followed my dad. Like my dad was a teacher. People respect him. Most of the people in our town was his students. So sometimes some people older than my dad, they come to my dad and call my dad as a teacher. I always felt surprised. Wow, dad, you have students then older than you. And he said, yes, I taught their kids in the daytime and I taught them in the evening because they are illiterate. That's why I have that students that older than my age. And so from that time, I thought that yeah, like reading and writing and the teaching is important. People respect you, people love you. And my dad always took me to those meshrep, like Uyghur public gathering, and I listened to those poems and those, like we call it dastan. It's a long poem, like epics, and people always tell stories, epics, and recited poems, and I also recite the poem. And because of that, like my father, he had a musical instrument, dutar, and it was really good. And so people like to come to our home because of my dad was a good storyteller. He has a lot of books and he can tell a lot about the world, about the history, and about our nation. So like people like to come to us, and it means that those poems, those poetries and music and dance and those storytellings are holding in our home, our house, like every a month once. And also like my dad bought the first tape recorder. At that time tape recorder was really rare, only we have at home. And so like he has a good music cassette. At that time we call it cassette. It's an old one, the tape. And my dad always buy a lot of cassettes and like play it with the tape recorder, and people listen to the new music. And also like at that time we had a good shortwave radio, and we can receive radio from Germany. In Munich, Germany, there is a Uyghur radio station. It called Radio Liberty. And because of we have that good shortwave radio, and we can play them new music and new stories and something new, something about the world, not about the China, something about the freedom and something about what's happening around the world. So people like to come to us to visit our family and to hold that meshrep entertainment gathering at home. So I grow up with those songs and those poems and those novels. My dad loves Russian classics. He likes Pushkin. He likes Lermontov. He likes Turgenev. He read us War and the Peace by Tolstoy. Yeah, he likes those things. Like in Kashgar, winter is very really long. Winter is long and it's dark and it's like very cold. So we always at home and listen to my dad, who read those Russian classics for us.
So, you mentioned that, during kind of your activism, there was like when you got detained and was imprisoned, right? So, how was your experience of imprisonment and exile reshaped your understanding of home, language, and freedom?
Yeah, before when I was my in my hometown, I the poetry and literature and those books are part of my life, and now they are far away from me because those Uyghur writers are in prison. Those Uyghur historian scholars are in prison. So we don't have new books anymore, and we don't have those new poetries anymore. Now, my understanding about poetry is before it was my life. Now it is my destiny, and it is something that I'm losing. I'm just like a tree in the fall. Those leaves are falling down from me every day and every day. And just for me, the winter is coming, and I became leaveless at the end because of the winter, the cold. So poetry and my literature is something like my destiny. I need to uh, work for it. I need to walk to it, and I need to keep it. I need to cherish it because it will disappear someday. It will disappear somehow. And another thing that I couldn't bring my books, and I couldn't bring Uyghur books because of it was dangerous to bring them out. And now most of them are disappeared, unfortunately, burned, and those writers being imprisoned. So I can't reach them. I should write them. Before I was a good reader, I still am. But Uyghur books, there is no Uyghur books with me, and I can reach. So what I can do, I should write. I know I'm not a good writer as my friends, as some of my talented poets, but my writing is for them, for not to forget their works, not to forget their memory, and remind the people that there is a Uyghur literature still alive. There is a Uyghur poems still alive, and there is Uyghur language still alive and still creating something beautiful. It's not the language is dying, it's not the language is disappearing, it's not the language is vanishing. It is the language surviving, fighting, and resisting. Before it was part of my life, now it was my destiny, it was my goal, it was my beloved treasure. I need to keep it, and I need to enrich it because it is in danger.
Were there anyone who really helped you, or like books or experiences during your time, abroad, that helped you continue your mission in the face of hardship?
Yes, it was. There is a book. It's Chalatekken Ok. It means that the bullet not being shot. This is a novel when I read when I was young, about 13 or 14 years old. Um, the poem is about a freedom fighter, and a poet, and he organized his own organization. He called it Bahar. At the beginning, he did advocacy in Urumqi, and then they organized armed resistance. But when they are preparing to start, the organization disclosed and the leaders being arrested. And some of them, most of them died in prison. And the guy, the leader, Kenji, he also died. The writer, the author of the book, author of the book, that not the bullet not being shot, described very well how he resisted in the prison, how he resisted, how he protected his friends, and how he keep his dignity in the prison. He described it really well. I when I got arrested in prison in 2013, August 19, I spent 458 days in prison. So during the time, it helped me a lot. The spirit of resist, the book is helping me, and I have an electronic version right now. I'm still reading it. If I have a time, I keep reading. Especially the part that he keeps, even in the prison, he keeps writing, keeps thinking that how to leave something for the next generation. Like when he died, he wrote poems every angle of the cell. When the Uyghurs found his cell at the end, they have seen a lot of poems on the wall. He left a lot. So, like the book, the character, he's a real person, lived in history, and so like the character and the book still helping me, still inspiring me, still encouraging me to do something, to leave something beautiful, encourageful to the people who are in despair, who are voiceless, and who are helpless.
That's great. So, can you recall like a moment when writing helped you find strength during a particularly difficult time in your life?
Yeah, of course. Sometimes you feel lost, you feel disappointed, you feel hopeless. But when I think about my friends, like I have at least about 50 friends. They sentenced life imprisonment. They are some of them my teachers at the high school, some of them my professors at the university, some of them my colleagues. I worked for 3 different universities in China. So those people sentenced life imprisonment. So when I think about them, when I think that they are experiencing the life I experienced before, I tell myself, you don't have that chance to lose your hope, to lose your strength, because the people there serving their terms, serving their endless terms, life imprisonment. Think about it. They will not be released forever. The people I know, about 50 people, So when I feel lost, disappointed, and hopeless, I always think about them and remind me that, Abduweli, your life is not only your life, your writing is not only your writing, your poems is not only your poems. They are the hope of those people who can't write, who can't tell their story, and who can't even express themselves, who can't even live as a human being. So you should live as a fighter. You should fight for them, for their freedom. So I don't have a chance to felt lost or to feel helpless or to feel disappointed.
So moving on to something lighter and more about the Uyghur culture, community, and identity. Are there any Uyghur holidays, celebrations, and traditions that are especially meaningful to you now?
Yeah, of course we have Dopa Day. Dopa Day, it's May 5th, and we celebrate every year May 5th, and we wear our tuppa. Tuppa means hat in Uyghur, but we have very different tuppa, very different kind of hats, and with different material, with different clothes, but we call all of them tuppa. And we have tuppa for young boys, young girls, teenagers, and old one, and middle-aged one, and senior citizens. We have different tuppa. We have about more than 30 kinds of tuppa. And in Dopa Day, we all wear Dopa. And like when I was in Urimchi, the Dopa Day is Urimchi is all of Urimchi, just like a garden, because people wearing different types of Dopa. Those Dopa had different flowers. So just you when you were walking in Urimchi in every May 5th, you will feel that you are walking with the flowers. And if you see from top of the Urimchi, you will see our flowers are flowing on the street, not the people. So it was really beautiful for me, the Doppa Day.
Hmm. So how do you see, younger generations of Uyghurs engaging with their language and heritage today?
We have Uyghur schools around the world, and we have Uyghur schools in Australia. We have three in Australia, and we have three in Europe, and also we have schools about five in the United States and about five in Canada. So the people are learning their language, and we have also online Uyghur schools. People are learning their language, and people are teaching their language, and our kids are learning their language. And I have published my 8 books for kids with the illustration. So the kids, I received some letters from the kids that they love my books. So I am proud of those kids who are learning the language. And we have Uyghur children magazine. Um, Authors, all of them are kids. They are learning the language, they are writing in Uyghur, and they are publishing their own magazine. So I'm proud of them, and I'm hopeful. And yeah, I will see in the future we have Uyghur novels published in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in Europe. So I'm really hopeful because of we have those Uyghur schools and magazines and bookstores, and also publishing houses which are publishing Uyghur books.
Hmm. So what traditional Uyghur foods bring you the strongest memories or, connection to home?
Mm, it's chuchura. I love it. It's a traditional Uyghur food. It's like a Chinese dumpling, but it's not Chinese dumpling because
Mm.
this the shape is different, the taste is different, and we have different ingredients, and it looks different. And we have soap and dumpling together, and yeah, we have some meat inside. So it's really different food. If anyone listen to my podcast, please try to write chuchura, and you will find in your neighborhood if you have a Uyghur restaurant.
Mm. So, what do you hope both Uyghur and non-Uyghur readers take away from your work?
I hope they will learn something about Uyghur culture, just as I mentioned, meshrep. I hope they will learn something about Uyghur literature, just like I mentioned that Uyghur poets, songwriters, and writers who are imprisoned. For example, there's a Uyghur writer imprisoned. His novel published in the West in different languages. It called Backstreet. Farhat Tursun. He has a book published in Columbia Press, Columbia University Press, and I hope you read it. It's called Backstreet.
Mm.
And also, I hope people to remember there is a language called Uyghur. In English, we pronounce Uyghur, but we call it Uyghur, just like yogurt. Remember yogurt, because yogurt, this word is originally loan word in English. It originated from my language, Uyghur. Uyghur,
Mm.
yogurt, it's the same word. It means come together. It means unite. It means civilized. So I hope you remember yogurt. At the same time, when you drink yogurt, when you eat yogurt, think about Uyghur, the same word, the same origin, but don't eat Uyghur completely because it's a nation. Chinese dragon is eating Uyghur, not yogurt. Remember that.
Mm. So, if you could speak with your younger self, just as you were starting to write and teach, what would you tell them?
I tell them that Chinese government committing genocide against Uyghur, but they are killing the culture, but they can't kill our memory. So we will forgive those people who are part of the system, but we will not forget. We will keep our memory alive. We always remind the people that you are committing genocide. You are killing the culture. You are destroying the spirit. So keep your memory alive. It's really important. Bad things always happen to good people. But remember those bad people, remember those bad things, and write about it and talk about it, and you will stop those bad people someday, those evil regimes someday. But memory is important. Don't forget what's happening. Don't forget what happened to innocent millions of Uyghur who are sentenced, imprisoned in China. So keep your memory alive, hope alive. Yeah.
Mm. So, in closing, just one last question. What's next for you in the store? Any projects or ideas you're currently working on?
Um, I'm working on different projects right now. One is about a book burning campaign started in 2017 in Uyghur homeland in China. I'm writing about that. I'm collecting how many books being burned, what kind of books being burned, and how long it continued. Looks like it still keep going on, book burning, just like it happened in Germany. German Nazi regime burned those books. And also, I'm writing about Uyghur kids because now Uyghur kids from 3 years old have to live in boarding kindergarten and boarding daycare. It's really dangerous because the Chinese government separated those Uyghur kids from their roots, from their family. It is dangerous. So I'm writing about Uyghur boarding kindergarten in China. And the third, I'm working on um, banned Uyghur songs because there are a lot of hundreds of Uyghur songs are banned in China, and people who listen to those Uyghur songs being sentenced, and those songwriters also being sentenced. So I'm working on that report, and also like this mass arrest. Those Uyghur historian are the main target, and so I'm working on persecuted Uyghur historian. I'm collecting evidence and writing report about those. So I'm working on those things, and also I'm writing. I'm writing for kids because it is a good thing. It is a funny thing for me. It entertained me a lot to write for the kids, and also I'm advocating for my friends, for millions of people who are in concentration camp in China. Yeah, I am doing what I can and what I should. What can I do?
Well, that concludes the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being part of this experience and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.